as Stephen says, going to be talking about gambling harms today, break-even services, and some of the other support that's available out there for anyone that is affected by gambling harms, as well as hopefully just providing you guys a little bit more knowledge about some of the new trends, some of the things that are happening within the gambling harm space, and people that might be particularly vulnerable, and some of the things that you can do to help reduce gambling harms, reduce some of the stigmas around it. Just to reiterate as well, I've got the screen so I can see the chat. So again, if any questions or anything pop up at any point, please feel free to drop anything in as we go, and I'll try and answer anything as best I can. Just as a initial thing, what I want to do is just play a short video for you, a little bit about Breakeven, just in case anyone here hasn't heard of our service before. It gives a little bit of background as to who Breakeven are and some of the support services that have been we offer and some of the programs that we offer, so you get a sort of more concise sense than what I will do if I just try and rattle on for too long about it. We've been around in Kent, operating in the southeast, supporting people with gambling harms for nearly 25 years now. So it's always kind of taking on and growing in those services that we do. I'm just going to mute myself for a second so that there isn't an echo. If I can get sort of a thumbs up reaction just to confirm that you can hear it, we should all be fine. We did test it, but always just that thumbs up just to make sure while I play this video.
Yep, that's good, Drew.
At Breakeven, we're committed to reducing gambling-related harm across the southeast and east of England. As a registered charity and part of the National Gambling Support Network, we provide confidential support to anyone affected by gambling. Over a third of our team includes people with lived experience of gambling-related harm. So we understand the challenges, and we're here to help every step of the way. We offer a wide range of services to support both individuals who are struggling with gambling and those who are affected by someone else's gambling, be it family, friends, or colleagues. Whether you want to stop gambling completely or simply manage your behavior, we're here for you. Recovery is a journey, and we support you with more than just treatment. We offer peer support, aftercare groups, and outdoor meetups designed to improve your mental well-being while connecting with others on the same path. We even run online support groups for women, whether you're struggling with gambling or impacted by someone else's. This is open to everyone in the UK and Republic of Ireland. The Bet You Can Help training is a program accredited by the Royal Society of Public Health and is designed to upskill and train staff about how best to help or identify people suffering gambling-related harm. For the armed forces community, our Battling the Odds program helps to address gambling-related harm by raising awareness, providing early interventions, and signposting to support serving personnel, veterans, volunteers, and professionals that support the armed forces. Our criminal justice program offers AQA-accredited interventions designed to support individuals in prisons, probation services, or anyone working within the criminal justice system. And through our South Asian program, we're breaking the stigma around gambling within the community. With minimal waiting times, we'll contact you within hours of your assessment and help arrange your first session, often within 24 hours. Treatment is free and you're never alone. Sessions can be delivered either face-to-face, on the phone, or online video call. Reach out today and let's take the first step together. Visit us at breakeven.org.uk or call 01273 833 722. We're here to help. Follow us on social media or listen to the Breakeven podcast for more support and stories.
So, as I say, that kind of gives a far more concise overview of all of break-even services than I can possibly do in that same amount of time. So I always like to show that video just to kind of give a bit of an introduction as to who we are. As the video says, we offer free treatment for anyone affected by gambling harm. So it's not just the individual who might be gambling themselves, but also anyone affected by that. About a third of our clients are family members, friends, partners, who might be affected by someone else's gambling. It's always really important to remember that that is a large group of people involved with that and the suffer and experience those negative impacts. I'm not going to read through sort of all of the statistics around this, but what I want to do is start by sort of highlighting why it is that we are doing what we're doing, and why it is that we have we sort of trying to grow and get more publicity out there around the support that's available for gambling harms. I'll share the slides, as I say, with Stephen to sort of circulate with everyone, but just to kind of get a gauge of the scale of gambling and the gambling harms in the UK. At the moment, it's about 48, it's nearly half of UK adults have gambled within the last 12 months. Sorry, so nearly sort of 60% have gambled within the last 12 months, and nearly about half of us have gambled within the last 30 days. So it's a huge number of people in the UK that take part in gambling. It is a massive industry, and it is something that lots of people do. We have things like the National Lottery, maze draws, all those kind of things, all the way to prediction markets and things like this, and newer forms of gambling that are coming in. It is a big sector, it is an ever growing industry. Within that, about 340,000 people in the UK at the moment are identified as having a PGSI score of above 8. Now, without sharing all the details, the PGSI score is the Problem Gambling Severity Index. Essentially, anyone with a number over 3 that scores on that is experienced some form of gambling harms. So if there's a score of 8 and above, that means that they are suffering from severe gambling harms, would be described as problem gambling. There is a further 1.8 million individuals that are currently at risk of experiencing those severe gambling harms. So it's a big number of people that are suffering as gamblers themselves, that are looking for recovery, are looking to cut down, are looking to abstain, that don't necessarily know of all the support services that are available out there. But one of the bigger impacts of that is that for each individual that is suffering from harmful gambling themselves, there is around 6 to 10 other people that are going to be affected by that. So if we think about, for one person that may be experiencing gambling harms individually, there is their parents, partners, children, grandparents, in-laws, friends, colleagues. There's that wide ripple impact that happens when people are experiencing harms, which means that there are actually an estimated of about 4.3 million people as affected others that are being negatively impacted by gambling in the UK. The scary part of that is that only about 3% of individuals are currently seeking out any specialist support for that, which means that situations typically get worse until they sort of hit that rock bottom. At the moment, it's estimated that there's one suicide in the UK a day attributed directly to gambling harms, and gambling harms increase the risk of suicide by sort of 10 to 15 times compared to those that don't experience gambling harms. So it is got some really, really serious consequences, and there is a big impact on those people involved. Now, in terms of what I want to talk to today and kind of some of the focus that I want to go through is think about why people are gambling, but particularly some of the kind of up-to-date latest things that people are involving themselves in. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a challenge. If you can just use the chat to put in, this is sort of the typical advert that you might see for gambling in the UK. So we have an advert. This is an Instagram advert, but you see these sorts of things on Facebook, on buses, and all sorts of things like that. Just in the chat, what are the first things that kind of draw your attention? What kind of techniques are being used here that jump out to you as a sort of typical gambling advert in there? I'll give you a minute just in the chat to sort of see what you think. Yeah, absolutely. That 50 to 1. 50 to 1. I always think it's very easy odds to understand. You know what kind of your pound bet is going to get you back on that, and it's really good odds. You're going to get a lot of money back if you win there. Daniel, absolutely, it's a new customer deal. Absolutely, Stephen. Everyone is happy. Everyone's smiling. I always think it's always funny because I always think, which team are they supporting in this game versus Manchester United versus Liverpool? Whichever team you want it to be. They're all wearing red. It's a very diverse group. It's different ethnicities, men and women. It is for everyone. Everyone can enjoy this activity. As you say, Cora, there, one shot makes you think it's an easy win. It's Mo Salah. All he has to do is have a shot on goal. Doesn't even have to actually score the goal, just has to have a shot. Well, that's his only job for 90 minutes, is to have a go. So it's really likely that you are probably going to win this bet. So it's immediately we see those kind of hooks in. The small print of this is that it's not £50. You don't win £50 back of a £1 bet. You can only bet £1, so max stake of £1 and a minimum stake. The winnings are paid in free bets, so it's actually you win five £10 bets, and those then have to be used within a certain period of time, typically until the end of the month's 30-day period. So what happens is these sort of adverts get someone who is potentially a new person to gambling, probably a young person, and then gets them in. They've placed that initial bet. You don't get the winnings. You get bets. So you have to then place more bets. So you've placed at least 5 more bets from those £10, which you're almost guaranteed to win. So that's now 6 bets from someone who hasn't necessarily ever bet before, or certainly hasn't had a gambling account with Sky Bet before. If you think about then any of those bets come through, typically what we will see is that there will be a grace period of time between the money being able to be withdrawn and doing it. So if you put one of those £10 free bets onto something else, it's going to get credited into your account. You'll be able to play with it. You won't be able to withdraw it right away. So what we see is this is a very classic technique that we've always seen for many years, is getting new customers in as soon as possible and trying to get them to build a habit straight away. Moving from no bets to 6, 7 bets within a week or two, because that's naturally what you're going to be doing with that. Now, I'm not going to spend too long in terms of going through the impact on brain. Suffice to say that your brain likes betting, it likes the excitement, but it peaks just before the result comes in. So actually, you register a win pretty much the same way as you register a loss, because it's been that excitement of building up to the bet itself, building up to that result, which is again why people then find it very difficult to stop, particularly with very quick release games, because you're still getting that flow of dopamine, even if you're regularly losing money. What we are seeing now is even a move away from sort of traditional licensed gambling sites like this to something that I want to focus on a little bit, which is the kind of unregulated market as well. First points to whoever can name this football team straight away. But what we're talking about is some of these cryptocurrency casinos like stake.com. Stake.com, brilliant, yes, Everton, well done. Stake.com are a cryptocurrency casino. If you try and access stake.com, you won't be able to. You can go onto it on your phone now, and you will get a message that pops up saying, sorry, stake.com is not available in the United Kingdom. Due to our gaming license, stake.com is unable to accept players who are located within your country. Stake.com spend millions and millions of dollars every year advertising on Premier League football clubs, on Formula One teams, sponsoring content creators, people like Drake, other influencers, streamers that are very popular with young people, to sort of just video themselves playing on their casino games online in markets that they are not legally allowed to operate within. Now, the way that it works is that with the online cryptocurrency is that you put money into the account, but you don't sort of directly gamble with that. You might gamble with gold tokens or gemstones or things like that, and then you withdraw the money back into a crypto wallet if you have any winnings to do there. So what it means is that using VPNs, which have been growing more and more in popularity, particularly in the last sort of 12 months, we saw a huge spike in VPN usage going up following the Online Safety Act, is that anyone can start to access some of these sites, regardless of their age, regardless of where they are. So even though we have organizations like stake.com that legally don't meet any of the requirements for safer gambling, responsible gaming, consumer protection rights, any of those kind of things in the UK, you can still access them. You can still sit at home in bed and get onto some of these sites and take part in their activities. Stake.com are not the only one of this, but they are a huge, by far the biggest version of this kind of thing. What we're seeing is millions and millions of dollars being sort of generated within some of these illegal markets, some of these unregulated sites, particularly for young people. So if you work with any young people, particularly between the ages of kind of 16 to 25, we are starting to see more and more people accessing these sites and following them. They are harder to exclude from, but also they target young people specifically. They will use cartoons, they will use influencers, all of those sorts of things to try and get young people in. As a sort of flip side and an expansion of that, we are seeing AI coming through in terms of, again, those influencing factors through. Again, the other quiz for you, and this might start to show the age of some of the people in the room, I'm afraid, but does anyone know who these three gents are? See if anyone knows. It's a couple of people timing. Yeah, absolutely. So the first one there on the left is Mr. Beast. Yeah, the guy on the right there is KSI. The guy in the middle is Logan Paul. So these three are just examples of incredibly popular content creators. Mr. Beast, for example, is the most subscribed YouTuber on the planet. He's got Amazon shows, he's got chocolate bars. Logan Paul and KSI have energy drinks. If you've ever seen your kids and young people in your life going for Prime energy drinks and all those sorts of things, that's those two, that's their brand, that's one of their drinks. They spend they have huge amounts. Mr. Beast, as the most subscribed person on YouTube, gets billions of views on his content every single year. Now, their core audience is young people. Mr. Beast, for example, his core audience is between the ages of about 13 and 16. The videos that he puts out are targeted towards young people. They are the people that are receiving his content. What we are seeing is people using the image of content creators like this to create adverts for their illegal gambling sites like this. I'm going to mute myself again just to show you this video here.
This is the 1 million bonus I won in this game. This might sound crazy to you, but it's totally legit. Pick up your phone now, download the game, and get $800. Mr. Beast will play the Solts game with you. Just click this video link to download.
Casino Jackpot Slots is a 100% free social slots game. You will hit big jackpots in just 10 spins, and the payouts are extremely high. Download now and get an $800 bonus. Keep playing and win $3,000 a day. What are you waiting for? Click the link below. The Hex jackpot will be yours.
No, that's not Mr. Beast. That's someone who's used an AI-generated version of him to advertise their unregulated gambling and gaming sites. You are not using Mr. Beast to target people in their 30s or 40s. You're using Mr. Beast to go after his core audience of young people and children. Now, as I say, because of the use of VPNs and things like this, young people now, with their first debit card, can get around age restrictions, will be tempted by these illegal sites using AI-generated versions of their content creators, their favorite influencers, and be able to get onto some of these sites. So it's something that we are seeing more and more of, and it's why I want to sort of raise it today to just be aware of some of those influencing factors that why people are getting hooked into gaming and gambling sites and where those harms can then start to lead to. We mentioned in the video there, if anyone wants sort of any further questions, feel free to ask. We do offer further training around this, particularly if you've got a charity that works with young people, but for anyone really, that further training that can sort of expand on some of these things a little bit. Obviously, the issue starts to be is that once people start to get into some of these habits, the gambling harms, as I say, ripple out and start to have an impact on every facet of someone's life. The main ones that people often think about are poverty and debt, in thinking about those kind of financial harms that can start to occur. But actually, it's also things like that isolation, anxiety, depression, poor physical health, poor mental health, comorbidities, cross addictions with drugs and alcohol, trying to sort of self-medicate or to kind of keep things going. Sadly, I've already mentioned that increased risk of suicide ideation and intent when comparable to sort of other similar addictions. Gambling has the highest rates of suicide. And sadly, it also has strong links then to criminality, antisocial behaviour, sadly, domestic abuse, particularly economic abuse and compromised parenting. So it has this kind of ripple impacts out that don't just impact on the individual gambling, but it could be parents, grandparents, family members, partners, all those other individuals that may also start to experience some of those harms. In terms of vulnerable groups, people that maybe you work with across Kent that could be more susceptible and where we want to make sure that we are thinking particularly about gambling harms. As I mentioned, young people are becoming a wider and wider risk of accessing gambling harms. through loot boxes, through games, through things like this, we are starting to see real trends occurring of younger people getting more and more involved in gambling before the age of 18, which means that they are not accessing necessarily through traditional means that people are familiar with and may already know a little bit about exclusions and things from. We also think about people leaving care, offenders, people leaving anyone in the criminal justice system. We mentioned the armed forces community that we run a specific program for. Those in areas of severe deprivation, and this is something that you will see if you go through any sort of areas of deprivation. You will see where the betting shops are, and you will see where the pawn shops are linked to those, and all these sorts of things. That is a deliberate act of targeting by industry. We know that amongst minority and marginalised groups as well, gambling can happen at much lower rates, but actually people experience harms at much higher rates. So within ethnic minorities, gambling much lower down in terms of the number of adults that take part, but those experience harm are much higher risk. So those that do gamble experience harm at kind of 3 to 5 times more. It's the same with LGBTQ plus communities. Gambling is much lower down in terms of its common use, but those that are gambling experience much more severe harms, things like self-harm, trauma, mental health issues, because necessarily aligned to other feelings of social isolation as well there. So what would I like you guys to take away from today in this sort of brief whistle stop session that I've been giving you is think about in your services where you can start to ask a question, where you can start reducing stigmas and opening up a conversation about gambling harms. These are ones that we always want to use. If you don't already, think about where you can start embedding a question about, is your own gambling or that of someone else causing you any worries? Do you feel that you're affected by any gambling, either your own or someone else's? Thinking about if you're speaking with individuals or groups, are people losing track of time? Are they losing more money than they can afford, getting themselves in debt or having to take out loans in order to support gambling habits? Or if someone is feeling ashamed, they're guilty, they're lying, is secretive about their habits. Actually, they don't tell their family or their friends as much gambling as they really are doing. That's a real sign that people are starting to experience gambling harms. Something that I will share with you again as part of the slides is this gambling continuum. And this is a really simple sort of color coded tool to kind of go through and just think when you're having those conversations, where might you put someone on this scale when you're having a conversation with them? And where might they put themselves? So down at one end, you've got the blues and the greens, someone that doesn't gamble, doesn't, for whatever reason, expects to do it. Maybe it's something that they take part in every so often. They buy a lottery ticket once in a while. They go for a special occasion with their friends, but actually they expect to lose that money. They're not betting for financial reasons or because they sort of expect to win anything back. They're just consciously aware of, okay, I'm going to buy this now and leave it there. If someone is talking about that increased time, overspending, they're not really enjoying it anymore, but they still can't sort of find the way to stop. Their well-being is suffering, or if they're experiencing debt, poverty, suicide ideation, their relationships are starting to be harmed, they're falling out with their friends or their partner, they're finding that they can't look after their children in the same way because money is being prioritized to go somewhere else, their employment or their study is at risk, then they are experiencing gambling harms already. And if you're having that conversation and thinking about that, we want to try and be signposting and referring into other services and trying to get them support as soon as possible because they are already at that extreme point of suffering harms. And whilst there may be other things that need addressing as well, we want to try and get to the root of that gambling harms because we know how much worse it can get. One of the first places that we always want to signpost, and this is something that some of you may have heard of, some of you may have heard of sort of things, I've seen adverts for this, is self-exclusion. For lots of people, the first thing that they will want to do is try and get control back by self-excluding. Self-exclusion is a process where an individual can ask a gambling operator to exclude them from gambling, or you can use tools that exclude on your behalf from sort of services. So GamStop and GamBam are two of the best ones that we provide, that we sort of recommend and signpost people towards. These are free services. If someone gets in touch with us, we can give them free codes to access GamBam. And you can put these on for kind of a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. GamStop have just introduced a kind of rolling stock so that over 5 years, it will just keep going. These are very difficult to turn off once they have been turned off, and they will block your accounts. They won't allow you to get onto gambling sites. They won't allow you to put payments through on gambling sites, gaming sites, all those sorts of things. So they are an incredible tool that you can put on all the devices in a household to ensure that someone has that bit of barrier between, do I really want to be gambling? Do I need to do this? What happens is that they are not a panacea. They're not going to cure someone who is experiencing gambling harms, because there is always going to be a way around. As we've seen, those illegal sites, those access and VPNs are very difficult to stop, and they are always trying to advertise and release sites that are not available on GamStop. One gets closed down or blocked, they will try and open up a new one. Alongside that, you can buy new devices, set up new email addresses, get a new bank card, all these things to get around. The point is that for most people, this is going to be a really good stopping gap. That for lots of people, if they're starting to think that that's what they need to do to gamble, is buy a new phone, set up a new email address, for the most part, they will have a bit of that grace period, and that spike of adrenaline will start to dip, and maybe they'll think twice and they won't go down that route. They are really important tools to kind of get in, and they work in conjunction then with putting bank blocks on your phone. Pretty much every major bank in the UK now offers a way of blocking accounts on there, and then self-excluding from physical locations as well. So again, GamStop have just taken over, so you can contact GamStop to get the app, but they will also be able to self-exclude you from bookmakers and betting shops in locations as well. So you could say, can you block me from all of the betting shops within Kent or within Sevenoaks, within Margate, Thanet, wherever it might be. Other providers, Sense, exclude people from land-based casinos. The Bingo Association can exclude people from bingo. Bacta and Boomerang then block people from the amusement arcades and gaming centres. So these are really, again, useful places where you don't have to then physically go into every single physical shop. But if you have someone that you're speaking to who goes into bookmakers that wants to self-exclude, they can call these numbers and help self-exclude from a variety of areas. Again, these aren't foolproof. There are always going to be ways around it, and there are ways of turning these off. They're a little bit easier to turn off than some of the apps, but they're always a great place to start. Most people will want that sort of safety net of a bit of self-exclusion, particularly in those initial conversations you might have. In terms of break-even services, they're referring to us, as I mentioned in that video at the start, we try and work as quickly as possible. So we operate with no waiting lists when people refer in. You can refer into us through the website. We're on ReferKent, so you can refer in through there, or you can give us a call, fill out a self-referral form, drop us an email. There's a few different ways that people can refer into us there. Once someone has referred in, we'll try and get in contact with them within sort of 24, 48 hours at the very latest, complete that initial assessment, get them set up, find out a little bit about them and set them up with a counsellor and get them booked in for their first session as soon as possible, typically within a couple of days of that first call. Depending on their need, we'll offer a range of sessions. And it can be face-to-face in one of our offices. If we don't have an office completely nearby, so we have a few dotted around in Kent, excuse me, if we don't have an actual office that someone can come through face-to-face, we'll see if there's somewhere else that we might be able to do it. I'm sort of in Margate based. We actually see clients out of the NatWest in Margate town centre, because we don't have an office there, but we have a few clients in Thanet that would like that face-to-face treatment. Otherwise, we'll do that via Teams or via the phone, depending on that client's needs. If they get to the end of those sessions and they would like more, they're finding that that's a really positive thing, that routine, that call, we'll just extend those sessions on a bit further. So we do have clients that will just continue in service for a little bit longer than sort of their initial 6 to 10 sessions. Equally, if someone leaves the service, wants to explore other options and then come back in, because we don't have any wait lists, we're able to get them back in as well very quickly to make sure that they can sort of jump back in wherever they left off and continue with their treatment. In terms of their aftercare, we also offer regular reviews, peer support groups. Particularly our popular one at the moment is our Women in Need of Gambling support. So on Mondays, we run a group online for women who have been affected by a family member's gambling. On Tuesday, it's a group for women who have been affected by a partner or an ex-partner's gambling. And then on Wednesdays, it's a group for women who have been who are in recovery themselves or looking to cut down as gambling themselves. And those are all online. There's no obligation to be part of treatment and are facilitated by one of our counsellors, Sally, who just sort of keeps that free and easy. But people can join that, women can join that, and just have a sort of supportive peer support group around them. We always check in relatively informally during that treatment and in the first couple of weeks afterwards if there's any other needs, if there are any other services around the area that might support, whether that's food banks, help with housing, debt support, family support, things like that. Or we then look at 3-month, 6-month, and 12-month check-ins as well for more formal, to make sure that anyone that needs that further support is able to access that. I think I mentioned at the very start that we work as part of the National Gambling Support Network. This is a range of organisations that cover the whole of the UK that offer very similar treatments, but also then offer that variety in there as well. So across the UK, we work with Gordon Moody and Adferiad for those that might need residential rehabilitation clinics, so we can make sure that access is as sort of seamless and cost effective as possible for those that might prefer that residential rehabilitation. We work with the NHS Primary Care Gambling Service and NHS clinics who can support people that may have other mental health requirements and other needs that maybe go beyond just gambling. If there's childhood traumas or sexual traumas, things like that, the NHS Primary Care Gambling Service is able to accept those tier 4 and 5 clients there. And then we also look at places like Bet No More, Reframe Coaching, Epic Restart, who also offer that free coaching and free support from a lived experience background. So there's a huge amount of peer support that people can engage with that help with their recovery journeys and help kind of as affected others and gamblers themselves get that support that's appropriate for them. One-to-one counselling isn't going to be for everyone. We know that at Breakeven, we know how beneficial it can be, but it can be quite intimidating. So if peer support group or more informal coaching is something that's appropriate, we'll signpost and refer into that if that's what that individual needs. Something else that we are working on that I do want to highlight as well is the Workplace Charter to reduce gambling harms. This is a project that we've been working on for the last couple of years, and this is really more geared towards you guys as professionals working in whatever industries and organisations that you are, whether you are third sector, whether you are local authority, whatever it might be. This is to help embed long-term protections for those experiencing gambling harms, but particularly protect you guys as staff members, as employees of your various organisations. About 85% of organisations around the UK will have some form of drug and alcohol policy. If you look through your HR, your starter kits, whenever you join the organisation you work for, you will probably have something in there about a drug and alcohol policy, what support might be available, whether that's time off for a treatment, whether that's withdrawing from particular services whilst things are going on. Less than 5% of organisations have a gambling harm policy, creating that real parity with other public health issues. What we are doing is we are working to write those policies for organisations. We've got 7 key principles that offer practical, evidence-based ways that employers and staff can commit to promoting health and well-being of their workers. The idea being that if you are a housing association, sometimes you will see gambling debt and you may not be able to help. Actually, is there other things that you can be doing? Is there a policy where we can find a middle ground where we aren't enabling by sort of handing out money to people that might be at risk of gambling harms without putting them at further risk by refusing access to specialist services? So what we can do is we write those policies in. We'll make sure that employees and staff members at the organisation, as well as clients, are protected. And then you get to use the kite mark and you get to sort of lead by example of showing that you are an organisation that supports anyone that might be affected by gambling harms. We've had quite a few sign-ups. This is just a select few, a variety of kind of private organisations, local authorities, citizens' advice, unions, local authorities. Most recently, we've had Wealdon District Council in Sussex sign up and Grays Athletic Football Club over in Essex. So it's a real range of organisations all trying to lead by example and show that they can help with gambling harms. As I say, I'll send over more details and things about this if it's something that you want to take back and have a think about with your organisations. Really, from me, the last thing that I will leave you with is, as I said at the start, if you don't already, ask a question about gambling harms. Most people don't come forward about their gambling harms. It's about an 8 to 10 year median gap between someone recognising harms individually and accessing any support for it, because they felt that there was going to be stigma, they felt like they were going to be judged, there was going to be some shame attached to them. So the biggest thing that we can do as professionals in whatever industry we are in is ask people about gambling harms. You're not going to make a situation worse by asking, is your own gambling or that of someone else causing you any worries, or whether you think that someone might be affected by any gambling, either your own or someone else's. So we really want to try and embed that question. Just asking it helps reduce the stigma and helps signpost to where support might be. You're not going to remember all the organisations and places that I've spoken about today. As long as you're asking the question, people won't mind if you then turn to Google and have a look at support services available locally. But you never get to that stage if you haven't asked the question and opened up that dialogue and conversation. I will send over kind of any more details and things like that for me.
Thank you very much, Drew. That was really interesting. It's just very thought-provoking. So I got a lot out of that myself. I've got one question. It was, I mean, how much of a problem is the lottery and scratch cards? We think of that as light touch, I suppose, but is it a bigger problem than we think?
It's an interesting one. So it's obviously, as you say, so that's a light touch approach. So the lottery is the biggest form of gambling in the UK by some distance, and second is scratch cards. Scratch cards, slightly higher risk of gambling harms than things like the lottery. Essentially, the biggest influence in terms of whether something is likely to sort of have an impact on gambling harms is the speed of play. It's the ability, because it gives you that dopamine rush, it gives you that adrenaline, it sparks your brain, and your brain wants to repeat that as soon as possible. So if you have something like a scratch card where you can do one, get that buzz feeling, even if you lose, your brain wants to repeat that feeling again so you can get another one. Things like the lottery have lower rates. We don't see many people coming through that where just buying lottery tickets has been an issue. And that's partly because for most people, you buy a lottery ticket, it's then a few days before a draw or before something else happens. So actually, you're not getting that spike. You're not getting that kind of emotional spike come through, because you'll forget to check your numbers. You'll get an email through. It doesn't work in quite the same way. The big risks, the ones that hold kind of 80 to 90% higher risk of gambling harms, are online gaming, are things where there's very, very quick flashes and your speed of play is very high. And that's why those particularly illegal sites, because any limits that the UK government might put on some of those speed of play and maximum bets that you can take, the illegal ones don't have that, which means that you're constantly getting flashes. If you think about sporting bet, the change we've had in the last few years has gone from just betting on the outcome of a football match to now, who's going to score next? What time is the corner going to be? Who might get yellow carded? What time is the substitution going to be? Do you want to bet on another game that's happening at the same time whilst you're betting on this game? And it's all designed to keep you looking at your phone as fast as possible. Those sort of things all hold those higher rates. But yeah, National Lottery, very low risk. And there's a reason that it's kind of more societally acceptable. But things like scratch cards and other things do carry the risks with them as well.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you once again, Drew, for such an interesting presentation. I will be sharing the presentation with everyone, along with details about any future meetings that we got coming up and the links and how to register for those. So I think we're just about finished. So thank you very much to everyone for coming along. If you do have any questions, do just get in touch, and I know that Drew will be more than happy to help. So thank you, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon.
Amazing. Thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, I'll send over those details, a few leaflets and things to share as well, so you've got those as well. But thank you very much for having me along.